Good morning, everyone. So for those who didn't attend my first presentation, I'm Rezak from user support team on Copernicus Marine. And today I will be presenting another tool which is used to remotely open and download Copernicus Marine data, which is the Copernicus Marine Toolbox. So the Copernicus Marine Toolbox is an open access package, a Python package used to retrieve all the metadata information related to all the data sets contained in our products. It also allows to only select and download only subset of this data by selecting only few variables that you wish to explore within certain geographical area. And the toolbox also allows us to access the original file service, which will allow to retrieve the data in their original form. Another advantage of the toolbox is that there is no quota limit memory when it comes to the memory size. Unlike when using the graphical interface, you cannot exceed the 800 megabytes. So when you use the toolbox, as long as your machine can handle the memory, then you are good to go and download all the data that you need. The toolbox also allows an optimized way to download the data. This is due to the conversion of the data to the analysis-ready cloud optimized format, the ARCO format. So that means that the data has been homogenized for ease of use and interoperability. It also means that the data is stored in clouds, which allows the fast parallel access to it. So the toolbox also allows to access various services. Among these services, we have the ARCO GeoSeries service, which is optimized to analyze large geographical area within a small period of time. It also allows to access the ARCO time series service, which is optimized to analyze small geographical area within large period of times. And we also have the original file service, which allows the access to the data in their original form. So to access the services, the toolbox provides various functions that you can use in order to remotely open and download our data. So first we have the login function. So this one allows us to log in order to get started working with our data. So it's the first function to execute after, of course, installing the toolbox. So the particularity with this one is that it allows to generate an automated file containing your credentials. So it's a one-time process, and you won't have to log in each time you need to enter our data store and download our data. We also have, I'm sorry. We also have the describe function. So this one allows us to retrieve all the metadata information related to our data sets. So the particularity with this one is that it does not requires to be logged in. And then we have the get function. So this one allows to access the file browser service in which you will get the data in their original form. So just keep in mind that when using the get function, you will have to download the data sets with all its variables, and you won't be able to select a certain geographical area. And then we have the subset function. So the subset function allows to only select subset of data from a data set by selecting only a few variables, as I said earlier, and you can also select certain geographical area that you wish to explore. So to execute this function, you can use two different support. So you can use either the command line interface support. In this case, you can use a MD4 prompt like the one I use myself. You can also use a Python API interface, application programming interface. For that, feel free to use a Jupyter Notebook or VS Code to work with the toolbox. So now let's get started and show you how to get started with the toolbox. So first things first is to access our interface and go to the user corner section, and then access the help center and FAQ section here. So in here you can find various sections that speaks of each section, of course, speaks about various topic in our service. So the one that we need to access is the Copernicus Marine data download. So you click on it, and then you will be getting also some sections. Of course, each one, of course, have its own topic. The one that we need to access is the Copernicus Marine Toolbox section here. And as you can see, we have also some subsections. Of course, each part speaks about a certain aspect of the toolbox. So the first one, of course, speaks on how to get started with Toolbox. We have an introduction article which defines the toolbox and how to use it. We also have the installation articles, which is a pretty interesting one, which lists and defines all the steps and the option that you have when it comes to installing the toolbox. We also have another interesting article which allows to use the toolbox without installation. It's basically an executable file to download and start working with the toolbox. This is especially for those who don't particularly use coding language. So I invite you to check it if you want. And below we have the main functionalities. So here we have the various functions that you can use with the toolbox in both supports, in the command line interface as well as in the Python API interface. Use cases. So in the use cases section, we have various examples on how to use the toolbox with use cases. Of course, for those who don't wish to work with Python, we also here have some use cases on how to work with the toolbox in R and also in MATLAB. And finally, we have troubleshooting and FAQs. So here we have a pretty interesting article, of course, which is the troubleshoots article. So this one contains all the common issues that you can encounter when using the toolbox. So let's say that you have installed the toolbox and you started working with it, and then you encounter an issue or a bug or something. So it's recommended to check the troubleshoots article because maybe you're gonna find the issue that you are encountering and the solution to it as well. Reporting an issue or feature request. In here, it's listed on how to report an issue or a feature request. Next, milestones and roadmap. This article speaks about the future releases of the toolbox. Of course, to inquire more information, you can always go here to the message icon and consult the news icon, as for example, and scroll down. In here, you can find the latest version of the toolbox you can use. Of course, we always recommend installing the latest version of the toolbox using a Mamba environment. Why Mamba? Because it's the one that is optimized to use the toolbox efficiently, and it prevents to have all the errors related to conflict between dependencies. So yes, it's always recommended to check this section to make sure that you are using the latest version of the toolbox. You can also check the help icon here and go for the help in case you need some extra tips or extra information, and type in, let's say, toolbox introduction. So when you type in toolbox introduction, you're gonna get some articles related to your question, and then you're gonna find, let's say, the introduction article which I spoke about. There is also the installation articles and the services provided by the toolbox, various information that you can explore to get further information on it. And there is also a way to inquire information by going to the message icon here and ask a question to our chatbot Blue. So let's say that you need to inquire about the toolbox and say how to use the toolbox. So Blue is going to explore our data center and try to come up with the best possible answer based on the question, of course, that you have asked. And as you can see, it will provide you with option that you can explore to use the toolbox. And if you can check here in detail, you can see that each number refers to a certain reference. The reference is usually an article which will help you to explore and get further information on it. Of course, if the answer provided by Blue isn't satisfying, you can always type in, I want to talk to a human agent, and then you will be getting in touch with us, and we will be glad to assist you further. So let's say that you have followed all the necessary step to install the toolbox, that you have created your environment and you install the toolbox. So the next step is to begin working with it. And for that, I will access my MD4 prompt to show you how you can use the various function when after installing the toolbox. So the first step is to activate your created environment. For that, you can simply type in mamba activate, the name of your environment, calls. I name it latest Copernicus Marine Toolbox. Feel free to give it the name that you wish. And as you can see, I'm no longer in my base, but in my environment. And you can always check your toolbox version to make sure you are using a recent one by just typing Copernicus Marine, which is the name of our package, followed by the version option. And as you can see, I'm using the latest one, which is the 2.2. So now let's begin with the functions. So first function that we will explore is the describe function. Again, it's simple. Just type in the name of our package, Copernicus Marine, followed by the name of our function, describe in this case, and just going to print the option that you can include within this one. So for that, you can use the help option to inquire more info about it. Type in enter, and then you will be getting all the options that you can include when using the describe function. Of course, the options are in the left and the description are in the right. I'm not going to dive in detail and explain each one. So what I recommend to do is check our help center and type in describe function of the toolbox, and you'll be getting the related article which explains in detail on how to use this function. So now let's move on to the login function, which allows us, of course, to log in. So again, you can just simply type in the name of our package, Copernicus Marine, followed by the name of the function to execute, in this case, login, type in enter. And as you can see, it requires to put my credentials. So you can put your credentials and also your password. As you can see, when typing the password, make sure you are typing the right one because you won't be able to see what you are typing. So of course, I've already used this function, so it's basically telling me if I want to overwrite it. So let's say yes, just to show you the file. And if we go back to my Copernicus Marine environment, you're going to see that the file is automatically generated. So now I'm logged in and I can now use the rest of the function of the toolbox. So the next one we will use is the get function. So first we're going to print the details that you can use also within this one. And for that, just as I stated, you can use the help option, Copernicus Marine get help. And then as you can see, I have all the options here and the description. Of course, all these are optional except for the first one, which is the dataset ID. Yes, the dataset ID. You cannot download data unless you join the dataset ID that you wish to get. Of course, you can use dataset ID or simply I to short it. And now I will give it an example. Again, if you want to explore more this function, just go to Help Center, type in get function of the toolbox, and you will be getting all the information in details on this one. So now let's give it an example with get. I will try to download, so Copernicus Marine, the name of our package, followed by the function itself. And now I will specify my dataset ID. So for that, I will just go into use the dataset that I have presented in my first presentation. Just going to copy the name here. This is the dataset ID. And then I will add the filter option to specify a certain period to download. It's possible when using the get. So for that, I'm just going to download a certain period. And for that, I will use the regex option to specify the period to download. For that, I will choose, let's say, I want to download data from the 21st to the 22nd of May 2025, 21st to the 22nd of May. Close the option here. And then I will specify also my output directory in which I wish to store my data. And for that, you can just use output directory or simply O to short it. Go back to here and copy the path to my directory and paste it. And now I'm ready to download my data. And if we check our directory, you can see that the data is being downloaded. So perfect. Of course, we are just not going to wait until data is being downloaded. The most important thing that you can see that the data is indeed being downloaded in the directory that we have specified. So now to present the rest of the functions, I will switch up to the Python API interface. And in my case, I use Visual Code Studio. You can use Jupyter Notebook as if you wish so. So first things first, in this case, is to import the Copernicus Marine package. So simply type in import Copernicus Marine. So now that I've imported my Copernicus Marine package, I am ready to download my data. So for that, I'm going to use the subset function. Before, we will print some details on how to use this one and what are the options that I can include. So just type in Copernicus Marine, point the name of my function, subset in this case, followed by an interrogation point. Of course, this command is the equivalent to the help command that I've used in my MD4 prompt terminal. So run it, and as you can see, I have all the options that I can use within the subset. So let's give it an example on how to download the data via subset. Again, just going back to my first presentation to copy the template that I have used. So of course, for those who didn't attend my first presentation, it's also it gives you a little glimpse on how to download a subset of data using the Viewer Pro and the Toolbox. So for that, just go to the download icon here, and I want to download, let's say, this area that I have created. So just click on the final map option and then click on the area itself, and the information will be automatically filled. And then go to the automate option here. And now I have two different templates for subset. So I have one with the command line interface support and another with the Python API support. Of course, this is the one that I want to use since I'm using the Python API support. So simply copy it, go back to VS Code and paste it. Here, it's no need to import it again. And now I can also add another argument, which is the output directory, in which I wish to store my data. Just going to use the same one, data, copy the path like this. And now run the cell. And as you can see, the data is being downloaded. It's in progress. And yes, the data is downloaded. You can check if the data is here. And as you can see, indeed, my subset of data is downloaded. So now move on to the next function. So this one is called the open dataset function. Again, we will print some details about this one, and then I will define on how to use it. Open dataset. So the open dataset is also a function of the toolbox, which allows to remotely open our data and explore it. Of course, the difference between this one and the get and the subset is that the open dataset does not allow to download the Copernicus marine data. However, it remains a pretty interesting function since let's say that you want to download our data, but you don't exactly have the ID of the exact data that you wish to download. So the open data set allows you to explore all the data by remotely open it without having to download it each time and then having to repeat the process. So it's a pretty practical function which allows you to browse various data that we provide and then select your data to download and then proceed to download it. So as you can see, we can include also various options when using it. So let's give it an example. I'm just going to copy and paste my subset template here since it's basically the same arguments that it takes, except for the output directory, because as I stated, when using the open dataset function, we cannot download the data. So open dataset, just give it a name here, dataset, and print it just to see our data. So now, as you can see, my data is being printed. And as you can see, I have all the details. I have the dimensions as well as the variables and the metadata related to my selected subset. Of course, for those who wish to export their their remotely opened subset to netcdf file, it is possible to use the to_netcdf method. For that, you can just type in the name of my created subset with open dataset, followed by the to_netcdf method, and you also have to specify your output directory. For that, I'm just going to use the same one, copy the path here, output directory, and don't forget to give it a name. And in this case, I will just name it data point NC. Of course, NC stands for netcdf, and run the cell. And as you can see, my data has been exported to a netcdf file, and it is stored in my target directory. So there is a way to store, to get the data that you have remotely opened by using the to_netcdf method. Now let's move on to the next function. This one also allows us to remotely open our data, but in data frames for those who wish to work and explore the data in CSV format. You can use the read data frame function. And for that, again, it's basically the same template. So just going to copy and paste this one and rename it read data frame here and run the cell. And my data should be opened in data frame in a few seconds. And as you can see, yes, I have all my dimensions as well as the time with my variables and the values. Of course, just keep in mind that when using this one, you have to first select your subset of data and then open it, because otherwise you will be getting some message telling you that the data that you have selected is too large. So in case you have selected too large amount of data, you can find trouble opening it. So just make sure to firstly select your data and then open it with this one. And to export this data into CSV, for those who wish to analyze the data in a CSV format, there is also a method to do it. So it's basically the same one as to netcdf, except for this one, you're just going to replace the method to CSV. Again, specify the output directory as well as the name of your file. And in this case, I want it in a CSV format, and that's it. Run the cell, and my data is exported into a CSV file. So I think that's it. We have covered all the needed parts and features that you have to get knowledge on it and to get started working with the toolbox. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and if you have any questions, please ask them. I will be glad to answer it. And enjoy the rest of the event. And thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Rezak, for your presentation. It was really interesting. And yeah, we have a few questions for you, so we will go to that part now. Actually, we have two concerning the Jupyter Hub, I think. The first one being, is there a limit to the size of the data files that can be stored on the Jupyter Hub when running a tutorial, I guess?
I think there is indeed a limit of size, but I don't exactly know what is the size of that you don't have to exceed. The users can save the question, and I will inquire about it to answer it in details and tell it yes,
Okay,
give it the exact answer for that. But yeah,
okay. Oh, I put on the side. The next question, I think probably the same person actually. So still on the Jupyter Hub, is it possible to download other Copernicus data such as ERA5 data?
ERA5 data. It's also, I would say it's not possible, but just to confirm it, I will also give it a look and yes, and get back to the user and answer it. But
Okay.
yes, I will give it a look and try to give it the exact answer. I don't want to say it's not possible, but prefer to investigate first and then I will see.
Yeah, I think we have a few data sets with ERA5 data inside, but I don't know if it's like reanalysis using ERA5 at some point or if it's fully ERA5 data. So yeah, maybe we can check
Yes.
that. Okay, so a question concerning the open data frame function. Does it work too when you have data in is grid?
The open data frame function is, I would say yes, because it uses tool when using the open data frame, it's practically the same as using the open data set. So all the data sets, when converted to the ARCO format, are are eligible to be used within the open data frame. So I would say yes.
Okay, okay, thanks for the explanation. Okay. Yeah, no, it's fine. Is there a way to find the dataset ID straight from the toolbox without going to the home page?
No, I would say no. Yes, you will have to go to the home page and access the data store and access the data in order to get the dataset ID. I was trying to find if there is a solution and get it with the toolbox, but yes, there is no function that allows to get the dataset ID without consulting the homepage first. So yes, it's
Yeah,
not possible.
yeah, that's what I was thinking also. Okay, I think I just have a small issue with my screen, but we can go to the next question that I can't highlight for now. Which is easier to use, VS Code or Jupyter?
That depends on which interpreter you feel comfortable with. I would say that they are both easy to use, and the difference lies in the interface and the option that you have. But yeah, VS Code or Jupyter, honestly, is the same thing. But I mean, you can use the one that you wish comfortable with, and the one that you always worked with. In my case, I use VS Code, and yeah, there are others who use Jupyter. So yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay, thanks a lot for the detail. Okay, it's back now. So the data you presented, I guess, is until 2023. Is there any sensor we can use if we want to analyze 2024 mean 8 wave, I would say?
Yes, of course. I just use an example just to demonstrate how to use the function. But yes, there are data that goes to 2044 to 2045. I mean, the period differs from a data set to another, from a product to another. So, in case you are interested in 2024 period, just go to our data store and select in the filter option, in the filter section, sorry, the area that interests you, and then you will have a set of products that matches the selection and the period of the products, and then you can select the one that suits the period that you wish to explore or download. So yes.
Okay, okay, thanks a lot. And I think we have time for one more question. Have you implemented or developed a project using this toolbox, and were the results obtained both accurate and reliable after programming? It's a general question. I guess the accuracy of the results, if you code something, doesn't depend on the toolbox. So I don't know if you
Exactly, yes. I didn't particularly develop a particular project using the toolbox. I mean, I use the toolbox to open the data and download the data and do some pre-processing. But I would say, yes, the toolbox is not related to the accuracy of the results that you obtain. The toolbox allows you to get and retrieve the data, and what you do after the pre-processing and the interpretation, your interpretation of the data is itself the one that defines the results. So the toolbox is working really fine. The results that we obtain when downloading the data are as accurate as they are, and what you do after is the one that defines, I would say, the final accuracy of the data.
Okay, thanks a lot, Gaza, for the explanation. So we will have to stop there for the question to go to the next presentation, but thanks again for joining.